And Jesus sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. If anyone would be first, last of all, servant of all. If anyone would be great, you must first humble yourself. If anyone wants to be the best, you must consider yourself the least. And if anyone would be great, you must be a servant first. You must be a servant first. You must be humble first. You must be giving first. And then these things shall be added unto you. For true greatness, the greatness that endures, the greatness that lasts, the greatness that doesn't fade away, disappear, grow old, or break, is greatness that looks like Jesus. For he alone is truly great, everlastingly great, awesome, and wonderful, and terrific, and super, and the best, and A+, and number one, forever and ever and ever. Amen. If you want to know what real greatness is, you look at Jesus first. He who was almighty, omnipotent, omniscient, all-powerful, and he humbles himself in the form of a servant. And if you want to be great in the way that really lasts, be like him. Be like Jesus. Humble, sacrificial, loving, servant. We can see that the disciples have gone astray here because in order for Jesus to give them this teaching about if you want to be great, then you have to be a servant, it's because he catches them arguing about who's number one. But they actually get in trouble before that moment occurs. Something happens that then leads to them arguing about who's number one. And if they had gotten the first thing right, they never would have gotten to this point. Back up, it only takes a sentence, but back up and look at what leads them to go astray in the first place. Jesus takes them aside, and he explains to them the gospel. And he talks about his own life, his coming betrayal, his coming crucifixion, his coming death, and his resurrection on the third day. And they are stumped. They are totally clueless, and they don't get it. And here's where the problem is. They don't get it, they don't understand, and then they don't ask. Jesus? That whole die and raise thing, could you elaborate? They don't do this. They are afraid to ask him what in the world he's talking about, and it is that moment of pride that leads to the next moment of pride. It is that lack of humility to say, I didn't really understand. Could you explain that again? Use smaller words. It is that lack of humility that leads to the greater humility of saying, well, I'm number one. He likes me best. If they had been willing to be humble then and there, it may have never led to that point and that argument. To be willing to say, I didn't really get that. Help me. Please. Explain it. Please. It sounds like it was something important. I should probably know this. Would you teach it to me again? And had they understood the greatness that Jesus was talking about, a greatness that lasts not only in this life but in eternity to come, they probably would have never gotten into an argument about some temporal and fleeting greatness that is here today and gone tomorrow. For greatness, true greatness, lasting greatness, enduring greatness, is greatness that looks like Jesus. He explained it to them, but because they didn't get it, and they were not willing to ask, they did not understand. But ask, and it shall be given unto you. Seek and you will find. Be willing to say, I didn't get it. In humility, ask, and the Lord will offer to you so that you might receive. These readings are pointing us, again, as they have these last few weeks, about having our insides match our outsides. What we say, we believe, expressed through our behavior. That our commitments, spiritual, emotional, mental, that they actually make a difference in your life. To say that Jesus is Lord, but not to allow it to exist solely in here or solely in here, but to be expressed through how we choose to live our lives, the commitments we make, the choices we make, the behaviors we enact, words we use, how we use them, the way we spend our money, the way we offer our resources, the way we treat other people. The humility to serve and to find greatness as it lasts forever in the greatness of Christ. This week, it pulls us back. We've had a few weeks now of being reminded of our insides matching our outsides, but we've sort of looked back again at something we mentioned a few weeks ago, and that is wisdom. That today, having your inside match your outside should also correspond to wisdom. And wisdom, as we spoke of a few weeks ago, has little if nothing to do with how smart you are. It even has little or nothing to do with how educated you are. My guess is, once again, we've all met people with probably too much education for their own good. People with degrees after degrees after their name that can't seem to find a brain in their own head. Wisdom means then something slightly different. Smartness, intelligence, education, these are good things, but they are not sufficient for wisdom. Wisdom is right choices experienced over time. Making the right decision, making the right choices, doing the right actions time and time and time again. You may be simple and humble and plain, and yet still wise. If you have been nourished with the word of the Lord like the man in Psalm 1, a tree planted by streams of living water, and able then to make good, wholesome, and wise decisions. It is a function of your experience. It is a function of your life. It is a function of saying, I choose to follow the Lord today, tomorrow, every day. I gain that experience in seeing what happens when I do. I may pass that along to others, and others may watch in my own life. That is being truly wise. We've seen that then referenced again in James. We have noted the reference already in Psalm 1. And we can see it, I think, very, very clearly in our first reading, Proverbs 31. The proverb of the virtuous woman, or the woman of good repute, the woman of great wisdom. The Proverbs 31 woman, if you've ever heard that phrase. Someone who exemplifies this sense of daily, practical, godly wisdom. The Proverbs 31 woman is someone who is wise. She knows the difference between price and value. She knows how to use her hands and is not above getting some work done. She blesses her family. Not just by what she does, but by who she is. As a matter of fact, it's been experienced day after day for so long, it seems like everyone in town knows who she is. And everyone in the family's reputation is bolstered because they are related to her. A Proverbs 31 woman who is wise, who is beautiful, in a lasting and enduring way. It has nothing to do with cosmetics. It has everything to do with her insides matching her outsides, and a lifetime of experience being nurtured and nourished by the word of the Lord, like that tree planted by the streams of living water. And who has been there, who has done that, and who has showed up every day to bless those whom she loves, to be generous to those who are in need, and to be a godly example to all who would know her or who would see her. She is beautiful in a beauty that lasts because it comes from the inside, it radiates outward, and it endures. She is great, for this is the greatness of the Lord. The greatness that does not fade or break or go away, beauty that does not fade or break or go away, truth that does not fade or break or go away. She is, as we ought to desire to be, truly wise. I want to ask your indulgence for a moment. Share kind of a personal story that I have seen firsthand these last few days that have made Proverbs 31 so significant to me in a way that earlier in the week I would not have expected. So many of you have been very faithful in praying for my family, and I'm very grateful for that. Praying especially these last couple of weeks for my grandmother, as we have seen her mortal life draw to a close. I know that many of you have been lifting her and my family up in prayer that this time would be blessed, would be comfortable. Her death in this life would be easy. And I'm very appreciative of that. The last time I saw her a couple of weeks ago, it was in the hospital where we assumed that her time in this life was very short. It was death was momentary. As it so happens, this is one of those momentaries where that ill-defined word moment does not mean a minute and a half, but it means like days and days. We've watched her linger then for a period of a couple of weeks. When I last seen her in the hospital, she was barely awake. It was very difficult for her to respond at all. Thought I had said my goodbyes at that time, and I was wrong. As she was brought home, and the Lord had her remain with the family these last 2 weeks, I got a call again on Friday night. And so late Friday, I drove back. The family was blessed and graced with a gift that none of us could have expected and none of us dared ask for. Gathered with the family, and we were able to go in. We went one at a time. And though very weak and in bed, to say that she was clear as a bell does not fully describe her supernatural clarity. She gazed into my eyes with an intensity that it was almost difficult to look at. Not that it was bad or scary or hard, but it was almost too bright. Almost like I was looking into the eyes that had seen the light of Christ himself. And with a clarity that I never, ever would have expected 2 weeks ago, she said purposeful goodbyes to everyone in the family. I've heard of such things, but I had never experienced one, where prior to the time of death, there was a grace given to the person to know, and then to have the ability to share specific time, to say goodbye, and to invest in those who would remain behind. So one by one, we were in there, and with those eyes that almost stared into your heart, she said a goodbye that was not fearful or tearful, but pure and strong, and loving and good. And then she gave words of encouragement and wisdom to each one of us privately, personally. She said words to me that I hope I keep with me for every day of my life. I couldn't have asked for that. Certainly could have never expected it. Like I said, I've heard of such things, never experienced it. And it was immensely powerful. I'm still thinking through what she said and what that time meant. But for all of the family to go in and individually have her offer her blessings to them, to pass along last words of wisdom or encouragement and say goodbye, not as someone who was afraid, but as someone who knew that eternal reunion was just around the corner. How incredibly powerful and profound that was. And how I hope that those words stay with me for a long, long, long time. And I know what a precious gift it was. I can only imagine that you have had loved ones who have passed away and probably not experienced a moment like that, where someone who has died before you could arrive, or someone whose last days were in a fog of unrecognition. Or perhaps it was so sudden, so unexpected, there was never any time or opportunity to begin with. To be given the gift of that time, of that ability, of that purpose, and how precious it was. And I got to tell you, she said some stuff to me, and this is no offense to you, but she said stuff to me that if you told me, wouldn't have been anywhere near, because she told it to me. This was a moment with a woman of virtuous character. A final goodbye from a Proverbs 31 woman. Final words of encouragement, blessing, and wisdom from one who was truly wise. And I hope I keep those words forever. Wise because of what was said, the significance and the profundity of the words that she shared, but wise because they came from her, who for more than 90 years exemplified the hard work, the honesty, the goodness, the greatness, and the wisdom of a servant who loved her family and who's willing to give to those who were in need. There were no photographers present to make press clippings out of this. There were no cheering fans or adoring crowds. It was just the two of us alone in a room and her in a bed. But I knew I was in the presence of greatness. I knew I was in the presence of you. Well, it wasn't just what she said. It was who she is. What she has been for so long. And how she has blessed us all with her enduring wisdom. That's greatness. That's greatness. You know, they say a great athlete is not just someone who is exceptionally skilled, but a truly great athlete, especially in team sport, is someone who makes everyone around them better. For a lifetime, 91 years, everyone was better for having known her. I am better for having been around her. I know I'm better for having had that last moment in landscape. Privilege. Preciousness of that gift. The sort of thing that I would hope one day to pass along to someone else. what we ought to desire of ourselves, wisdom. That our insides match our outsides, beliefs in our behaviors. That we can make good, right, proper, godly choices even today and continue to build on them every day, every month, and every year. That we would make our own families better for being around us. That we would make others greater for having been in our presence. That our own wisdom would offer the Lord's blessings through us to others who are in need. So that someone could gather around my bed at the end and have something that they could take with them for good. And even if I was not graced with that special opportunity, that my own life had been lived in such a way that they didn't need to hear my words, they had seen my life and were blessed nonetheless with wisdom. May it be said of me, and may it be said of all of us, that we can pass that along to those who know us, who love us, the Lord has placed in our lives, need that example and might be lifted up, raised up, made better, and blessed by our wise choices. I know that I was offered a precious gift, and I hope I remembered. I hope those words ring in my ears for the rest of my life. But it has encouraged and strengthened me to be the sort of guy who would have those words to offer to my own children, grandchildren, and those who may be in need. And if I have not words to share, then a lifetime lived that they could see. You could as well. If we have not, it is because we ask not. May we all be humble enough to ask the Lord to fill us with His true wisdom. And like that tree planted by the streams of living water, to be nourished by His word and bear good fruit. Bear good fruit that will be sweet to taste at the end of our lives, and bear good fruit that might feed and nourish people even today. That is beauty. That is truth. That is wisdom. That's what it means to be truly great. It lasts. It endures. Like words that I want to be in my heart forever. It lasts and endures. It is strong like iron and precious like the finest gold. Ask that the Lord might make you truly wise, and that through His greatness expressed in your life, you might help make all of those around you just a little better. That you might speak words of blessing and encouragement, and you might live a life of wisdom to raise up your own family and all of those who know you.